Hi, lovely people. My name is Diana Moraro, and I'm the International Career Mentor. And welcome to Career Backstage. I hope you had a really nice weekend. And today we're going to discuss about how to lead a multi-generational workforce. And we have a special guest, and her name is Nousheen Mukhtar, and she's the CEO of Nousheen Mukhtar Marketing Management International and Stylfemina. Welcome, and thank you so much, Nousheen, for accepting our invitation. Welcome to Career Backstage.
Thank you, Diana, for inviting me here. I'm quite excited to talk with all our audience and with yourself.
Yeah, it's a really interesting topic, Michelle, because a lot of people today obviously deal with that, and I would say they actually face some kind of issues in leading a multi-generational workforce because there is kind of a gap between different generations. But before we're gonna kind of deep dive into the topic, so I will not gonna say too much about you, but I would like you say people what is not so well known about you, because I know in United Arab Emirates you are a really well known person, a businesswoman. So what is not so well known about you? What do you think that people don't know about Nousheen?
Yes. Well, pretty much a lot of people know a lot of things about me, especially when things are related to work. But what they do not know about me is um, in very early years, before starting my business, I used to be a bit of an artist and was known for landscapes. That was a couple of decades ago, and the interesting part is nobody knows about that because I did not keep my work with me. At that time, all of my friends and family members and cousins were very interested in taking the art, so they took all of my stuff. And then on a second note, I'm also a little bit of a poet, which is very unusual. So my poems, like a couple of decades back, were reflecting my philosophy of life and my observations about people around me. Some poems were about some very interesting people I really cared for, including one of the maids in my grandmother's house. She was quite a bit of a person. I really liked her, and she stayed in my imagination for many, many years. And later on, I was able to talk about her. So all of that was published in several e-magazines, and this is something nobody knows about me. You got the secrets today.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing this with us. So now let's start kind of deep dive a little bit into our topic for today. So let's start to talk about what is the most popular leadership style that people start using in leading multi-generational workforce. And if you can share with us an example, that will going to be great, so people can understand, because different companies they use, or different leaders they have their leadership style that they use in order to lead a multi-generational workforce.
So I believe that a very effective leadership style, which is helping leaders in managing a very diverse workforce, diverse as in the sense where there are three, four generations all working in the same workplace with different belief system, with different attitudes and perceptions, and with different communication styles. I strongly believe that transactional leadership is quite useful in helping leaders managing the gaps that come because there are different age groups working in the same place, and this helps them in what do we call it, proliferation of communication tools, in making use of technology efficiently so that there is a balance, in making sure that people are motivated and result oriented while they are interacting within the team and are trying to perform to the best of their potential. So when it comes to thinking about, let me say, leadership styles, the autocratic style will not work. People
Yeah.
wouldn't want to be bossed around anymore, isn't it? The concept of leadership has evolved eventually, and a deeper understanding of what a leader should do is very much there. So people are not going with managers, or let me say, they're not putting up well with managers who want to have total control over the employees and want to take hold of all the decision making opportunities. And also are not inviting input from the people who are working with them. So let me say the autocratic system is no longer there. People have to make sure that everybody has a say. People have to ensure that what other people are saying is being heard in the team, and that the decisions, although might rest on the leaders, are still done or executed in a very democratic manner where people are expressing their views, they are bringing value to the table, whatever they're bringing to the table is being valued by the managers, and that's where the leadership counts. And if a manager is more open towards accepting and is more open towards the transformational style of leadership where he can make adjustments and has the flexibility of understanding people and has the ability to accept their styles and their expectations, that's where the power will lie, and that's where productivity will lie, and that's where more accomplishments will take place.
Yeah, exactly, Nushin. And some companies, I think they start kind of moving to authentic also a leadership style because they would like to have, for example, a leader in front of them that obviously has a purpose, has a vision, has some kind of personal and professional values that share with their workforce, which is really important. And yeah, I completely agree. Autocratic leadership is not working anymore. This type of style, this actually has been used before from beginning, but nowadays, for example, and especially after post pandemic time, is not working anymore. So. I noticed that a lot of businesses actually start kind of facing a huge gap between generations, as you mentioned a little bit before. So different ages, different style of motivation, different style of communication. Is this gap actually related to technology, do you think, or it is related to something else? Because some people think, okay, maybe it's related to technology because actually baby boomers or generation X, Y, they don't really know to use very well the technology, but the technology start to be used more with millennials because millennials actually I wouldn't say that they're really native, digital native as Generation Z or Generation Alpha who is coming. But anyway, they actually know how to start to play with the technology. So, or this is related to something else.
Diana, I believe it's the time and the use of technology, yes. It cannot be denied. It's very obvious. If we look at the way things have changed in the last 2 years, like let's say 2.5 years or 2 years and 3/4 of
Yeah.
the third one, yes. Even before the pandemic, things were not the let me say the conventional way, and technology was very much prevalent, and people were relying on it. So the fact that we have around, let's say, four generations in working in the same room these days in offices, like we have the baby boomers and the Generation X, and then the millennials, and then the Generation Z, all working together. Yes, it's true. It cannot be denied, and the fact that the practices that were working, let's say 5 years ago, were they essentially differ from the things that are working today, isn't it?
Yeah.
So even when we go back towards reading up research and understanding best HR practices, we discover that the research that happened, let's say, 5, 6 years ago is quite outdated. And a lot of theories and a lot of practices that were accepted at that time in managing workforce, in motivating the team, in understanding the dynamics of managing a team are a little bit obsolete, are a little bit out of context. And why has that happened? Obviously, the pandemic has played an integral role in that. Everything changed. Like, yes, there are more employees who are working remotely these days. The workplaces are focusing and stressing more on mental health, on personal well-being, on productivity, on creativity. Innovation is the thing everybody wants that to happen, right? Isn't it so? So for a business, or for a company, or for a corporate to thrive, it's essential for them to bank on innovation. And who is innovating? It's the younger people with new ideas. It's the native users of technology. It's the people who are being given freedom, a lot of freedom, it's the people who are allowed to break the barriers of conventions, the barriers of what do we call um, traditions that were practiced in workplaces before. So that has led to a change. And of course technology is the facilitator because it gives you more access to best practices, it gives you more access to information. Knowledge is more accessible, isn't it? You can take a few minutes and dive deeply into past research and make quick assimilation of points that are irrelevant or are relevant or that you can use in your own work, isn't it? So yes, technology is the perpetrator. It has facilitated the way diversity is working in teams. At the same time, it has disrupted the older system, has brought forward new ways of working, and hence there is this dire need for managers to understand that if they have three, four generations working together in their office, they really need to work in unconventional ways. So they need to treat each one of them according to the way that they have lived through the years. So a deeper understanding of human nature, of the differences in all these generations, is imperative towards running a multi generational team in a company. It's very important because people who are somewhere around 42, 45, or closer to 50 are going to assess things differently, are going to respond to, let's say, situations and stimulus differently. And people who are in their, let's say, early 20s, mid 20s, or late 20s, they're going to have a completely different view of the way things are. They're going to rely more on technology, they're going to rely more on new ways of doing things. They will be willing to take risks and experiment, and that's where new things come up, isn't it? So this
Exactly.
has to be taken care of, like treating all of them in the same way, setting up the same rules, and setting up same criteria for assessing performance would be a disaster, and it's not going to work.
Yeah, so that's why even, in big corporations, people have that kind of expectation matrix, for assessing, yeah, for evaluating their doing like annual reviews, performance, whatever. And that's why most of companies, they started kind of to be quite more flexible when they set up this expectation matrix, as you said, Machine, that they really want to assess more the individual, rather than that one is like a template for the companies that serve in order um, to review people, to assess them. But there are companies who obviously start kind of um, avoid this, annual performance review. I'm not quite sure which companies, but they started kind of do not have this on annual basis. Like, okay, let's assess people as per the skills that they have. So, how do you think a leader need to care about their people? Because we know that most of people nowadays, when they leave a company or they leave a job, most of time they leave a job or a company because of people that they work with, rather than uh, they don't have, for example, a good salary, or let's say they don't have good benefits, a really attractive package. So is most of because of people, and this can be because of the managers, or this can be because of the style of leadership that is implemented in that company. So let's actually share, if you know, an example with our people who are watching us now, how a leader needs to care about their people in order to retain that pool of talent in the company, and not only the talent but all the people there, because building a team, it takes such a long time and it's not easy.
Yes, very true. It's not easy to build a highly productive, well connected team. So there are a few factors that count, and those factors are not restricted to just the environment. They are more personal. When it comes to leaders, yes, it is more personal. So, um, what I have observed is that people who are more open are willing to exercise, let me say exercise, acceptance, open to inclusivity, and who understand the perks of diversity. They are making better leaders. Why I said openness? Like, we are all sometimes controlled by stereotypical beliefs, and that's natural. It's very difficult and it will be highly unexceptional for a person not to have a single stereotypical belief. Isn't it true? So that's because we have learned those beliefs through the cultural and societal ecosystem that has been around us. No matter how far and wide we have traveled, we might still have been left with a few of the stereotypes that haunt us. And first step towards having a more democratic leadership style and towards understanding that your team has to stay together and you have to lead them properly is to make sure that your own personal beliefs are flexible, that you're open to accept what other people are saying, that you are less judgmental towards yourself and towards other people, that you are open. You're openly, let me say this way, you are not closing and shutting down your doors and you do not have too many barriers. You're approachable and you have a wider vision, a vision that can even have sometimes that can see very far and wide. Because if a leader is not open towards understanding people and towards accepting them, is not able to look beyond the obvious, it's going to be very difficult for him to understand all those different generations that are working with him. And what will happen will be that the older people will feel irked by the way he's bossing them and will feel that, okay, their opinion is not valued and they will leave. The younger people will find him unrelatable and will say, oh my god, this person is totally unapproachable and is living on Mars maybe and is not understanding what we are saying. And that will create a wider gap, a gap which will not be bridged easily. So yes, going back to what I said earlier, it comes from the person himself, the personality, the kind of self beliefs, the kind of the way he is managing himself. That's where it starts, honestly. Why people leave their jobs despite the fact that they might have been offered greater salaries and promotions and all that? Okay, this usually happens not just because of the leader always, it also happens because of the personal goals of employees. If they feel that they're continuing to perform in the job is not fulfilling and is not promising them what they want to achieve in the future, they're very likely to leave. I quit my job, let's say in 2012, beginning of 2012. I was offered a promotion as head of the department. And I sat there, and it took me only 3 minutes to decide. And
That was a
because I
quick decision.
yeah, seriously, it was like she offered me this, and I was very happy internally because I understood that I was a great performer, and she was appreciating that. So I loved it. But when she said, "Okay, shall we continue?" I said, "No, I'm sorry, I quit," and she was shocked. The reason I made that decision was because I felt that if I serve even for one more year in that capacity, I'll be boxed. They will limit me to their company's culture. They will restrict my personal development and growth. And I will learn the practices that I will not feel comfortable with. Because they were going with a very traditional leadership style and they were putting me in a leadership position. I was not that person. I saw other leaders, other heads of departments dealing with younger people in a very bad way. And I was not for that. And I was not going to behave like that. And their goals, the goals that they were setting for me at that time, were all related to just the performance. I was not going to gain anything personal. Like, I was not gaining anything on a personal level. I was not growing. And when I realized that, okay, it's not going to make me grow as a person, I'm not going to do that. I don't care for the money. And I left.
Yeah.
I left and I started my own business. It wasn't, I wouldn't say that my business has always been doing great and I've been making billions. That's not true. But It brings me the kind of challenges that I love to handle. It brings me the level of satisfies, and it's quite satiating. And I feel that, oh yes, I'm doing something that I should be doing.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, and I would like to add a little bit more on your answer. For example, I used to work for a company where I really like that the leader who actually was in front of the company, there was no barrier in communication at all. So exactly as you mentioned before, people in within the company, they actually had a voice, they could be heard, which is really important. And like, going to the managing director, let's say, and knock at the door and just go there and explain, okay, this is the situation that I have so far, that is brilliant, rather than just to be a lot of layers, in the company, and that kind of bureaucratic style where you can't get to the right person straight away. Yeah, this is really, really important, and I think a leader needs to be really kind of close to the people to understand what actually motivates them, to adapt to different style of communication, to different workforce, and generational or intergenerational multi workforce that they have in the company. This is really, really important. And also coming and talking to these people, like sharing, the thoughts, the vision, the mission of the company. This is really important, because this is actually what is, keeping them close, and also building that trust. So we mentioned before about authentic leadership also, because some companies, after post pandemic situation, they start kind of using this leadership style. So what particular traits do you think should an authentic leader needs to have, in order to lead part a multi-generational workforce?
The first thing that makes a leader authentic is his or her relationship with herself or himself.
That's nice. Yeah.
That's very important, and that stands true not just for the leaders but for everybody else, for all the humans. The very first person you think of taking care of is yourself, isn't it? Why you're learning to do things, why you are earning, why you're starting a family, why do you have friends? It all comes back to yourself, isn't it? So, an authentic leader has to be true to herself or himself. If that is not there, nothing is there. You need to understand your own values. Pick and choose what is for you. And when you have set up your values, you have to stick to them under all situations, the good ones and the bad ones, the happy times and the sad times. You should be the same. Integrity is of extreme importance. So, how do you continue to sustain your authenticity as a leader? Is that you stay the same over the years. You do not become less truthful at any point in time. You do not become less gentle at any point in time. You're honest with yourself and with others equally. Yes, there might be times when you have to take some diplomatic decisions, but all those decisions should still adhere to your value system that you have set up for yourself. Then, yes, we go on towards more personal traits, like you should be a good listener, you should have a lot of patience, you should exercise. Again, I'm saying exercise empathy, because empathy is not something you might have once and then you do not have at other times. It's something that you build over time. You understand people better, you understand people's situations better, you connect with people on an emotional and psychological level as well. When you're working with them, that gives you a deeper understanding. You're able to manage them better, you're able to understand their problems better, you're able to devise solutions better. It becomes a process, a chain effect, and that is important. The code of ethics set up by the company is one code, but you have to check as an authentic leader, do you have your own code of ethics? If it is there and you have taken care of it, are you practicing your leadership style according to that code of ethics? When is it challenged? What happens when that code of ethics is challenged? That's what matters the most. And once people see you as an honest, as an approachable, as an empathetic, as a very sound and composed person, once they understand you are a man or a woman of values, definitely they would love to follow your lead. You will not have to, let me say, impose authority on people. You will have to delegate authority, and people will accept that. And that comes from the heart, and that is created through yourself, your relationship with yourself before you establish your relationship with people around you, going on towards like family and your team. That's how things are, and that's how they should be, and that's what you need to take care of.
I like, Nushin, what you said, to be honest, and I'm pretty sure that this is coming from your personal experience. um, so yeah, because sometimes when people actually coming in our sessions, they ask where this is written, what you say, but this is actually, yeah, is from your personal, and I like it. So I'm gonna share this phrase and sentence that you said, so people can know. Thank you so much for sharing this. So
You're welcome.
anyway, we talk more about we took more than 26 minutes about how to lead a multi-generational workforce. What do you think that people don't really know so well about leading a multi-generational workforce?
Um, it, what they do not know well about is the difference in each generation, and the way they can control expectations. There is a way of controlling people's expectations. You keep transparency there, where you're setting up expectations from your teams, and you encourage them to respond to those expectations, right? And that reflects to them that what is expected of them as a diverse force. Of course, acceptance, inclusion, this is, and tolerance, this is accepted. You need to set these rules, set these as rules, let me say it. And that will help you in managing multi-generational. When the gaps are there, denying the existence of those gaps is a big mistake. And that is where people are finding it hard to manage,
Yeah.
because many of them are not realizing that a certain age group is very different from the other age group. The exposure of certain age group towards one thing is more than the that of the other. So there has to be balance. And how does that balance happen? When they all work together in cohesion, when they're unified, when they're understanding that one group's strengths should complement another group's strengths, right? And one group's weaknesses should be covered by another group's strengths. And this has to be created through a culture of cooperation, of acceptance, of tolerance, of friendship, of approachability, where there are not very high barriers to stop things and block things. That's what I believe.
Yeah, and especially because people should be aware that different generations, that they have also different behaviors. Because sometimes yeah, we
Every individual will have a different behavior,
yeah,
honestly.
exactly,
Every
exactly.
individual. Yes.
Yeah. So we actually coming to the end of the Career Backstage, and I'm so happy that we in 30 minutes we obviously had discussed so many things about, and you share a lot of things with people who watch us, which is brilliant. So let's just summarize, Nousheen, and some tips and tricks about how to lead a multi-generational workforce, like in 1 or 2 minutes. That will going to be really great for people just to understand everything what we discussed. We were going to put like in 1 or 2 minutes in, in
Okay,
tips and
sure.
tricks.
So we discussed first up that it's important for a leader to do away with the autocratic leadership style, because that's not acceptable anymore in present times. It's not relatable, and it can create problems for them. An authentic leader needs to be first true to himself and needs to understand himself before he goes on towards establishing any kind of relationship with a team. And then obviously there is diverse workforce everywhere now. We have 3 to 4 generations working in the same office, and the best way to manage them is to show greater understanding towards their needs, identifying their different expectations and their behavioral styles, and dealing with them accordingly. Everything that a leader does should be a response and not a reaction. And this is very important. Creating unity comes to the leaders. Setting examples comes to the leader. Best practices comes to the leader. Code of ethics comes to the leader. Code of performance comes to the leader. And it doesn't just have to be defined, it has to be practiced. And the leader is the person who sets examples through practice and action.
Yeah, thank you, Nousheen, so much. Thank you for having you here at Career Backstage. Thank you for all the insights that you share with us from your experience and expertise, because this is really important. Thank you so much. And we're going to wait you to come to Career Backstage another time and to share any other insights that are going to be really great. So
Thank
once
you.
again, thank you so much. So thank you so much for to all of you that you've been with us this morning, and I'm going to see you in 2 weeks where we're going to have another special guest, and we'll be talking about how recruitment will gonna look like in the next 12 months. Thank you so much. Have a great week and stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Diana. Have a good day.
Have a good day.